Imagine a city built on order, a place where the streets shine with quiet precision, where finance hums like a perfectly tuned machine, and where the world believes nothing escapes the light. A city that feels too structured, too clean, too tightly secured for chaos to ever slip through the cracks. Now imagine that same city, on a warm August night, becoming the epicenter of one of the largest money laundering scandals the modern world has ever seen. On August 15, 2023, Singapore was not the Singapore the world thought it knew. More than 400 offices moved through the darkness at once, converging on 9 luxurious apartments, the kind of places where marble floors reflected chandeliers worth more than a house, where perfumes cost more than a month's rent, where silence was woven into the walls like fabric. But on that night, silence shattered, doors splintered, sirens cut through the air like blades. A man leaped from a second-floor balcony, desperate enough to risk breaking himself rather than face what waited behind him. Another tried fleeing through a drainage tunnel that smelled of rust and regret. They had run from many things in their lives, but this time, they were running from truth. 10 were caught, 17 fled, and over $1 billion in cash, gold, luxury watches, artwork, supercars, real estate documents, digital wallets, everything a criminal empire touches, was seized. But this was only the smoke. The fire beneath it revealed more than $3 billion of illicit money washed clean through a city famous for its spotless polished glass. It was the kind of scandal that makes the world pause, not because it happened, but because it happened there, in a nation considered one of the safest vaults on earth. Money laundering is a strange thing. It is the art of hiding truths in plain sight, the science of bending systems until they break, and the philosophy of power disguised as invisibility. Most people imagine criminals as shadows in alleyways, exchanging envelopes, whispering deals, but the modern criminal does not hide in darkness. He hides in brilliance, in penthouses with glass walls, in impeccable suits, in million-dollar paintings hung ironically on stolen money. The new criminals of the world look cleaner than the cleanest person you know. That is the paradox of this era. Wrongdoers no longer resemble the images we grew up with. They have outgrown caricatures. They now look like success. But beneath every layer of elegance lies a question that refuses to die. Where does dirty money go when it wants to look clean? To answer that, we must understand something uncomfortable. The world is built on trust, thin, fragile, breakable trust. Banks trust that the numbers you deposit came from somewhere legal. Governments trust that your wealth is honest. Businesses trust that your payments are real. And we, living our daily lives, trust that the systems that surround us are stable. But trust has a weakness. It believes its own illusions. And illusions can be bought. Money laundering begins where truth ends. It is the process of taking money born from crime, fraud, illegal gambling, human exploitation, digital theft, and dressing it in the clothes of legitimacy. It is a performance where every dollar is an actor. You change its name, its background, its history, until no one recognizes where it came from. Once upon a time, laundering meant running cash through businesses like laundromats or restaurants, blending dirty bills with clean revenue. Today, the game is so sophisticated that what used to take months can now be done in minutes. The criminals behind the Singapore scandal were not lone wolves, they were architects. They built structures of companies across continents, shell companies in the Caribbean, nominee directors in Europe, secret accounts in tax havens, silent partnerships in real estate projects that look more like art installations than homes. They traded money like magicians trade cards, switching, splitting, layering, disguising, making it hop borders the way birds migrate across seasons. Money traveled through crypto wallets bouncing through anonymous addresses, through art auctions where a painting's value was more fiction than expression, through luxury properties paid with origins no one questioned because luxury blinds judgment, through banks in countries where secrecy is a business model, through gold markets where value can be carried in a pocket, through online gambling platforms where winnings are just another word for laundered. Every time the money changed form, it became harder to trace. Every time it crossed a border, another layer of fog wrapped around it. This method has a name: layering. It is the heart of modern laundering. You hide truth under so many layers that even if the first one cracks, there are dozens waiting beneath it. Authorities describe it as chasing smoke. By the time you reach where it was, it has already become something else. But if money laundering is a crime, it is also a mirror. It reflects who we are and the world we've built. A world where value can exist without shape, without smell, without a single physical trace. A world where a person can move millions with a fingerprint, a tap, a line of code. A world where rules exist, but so do exceptions, exceptions sold to the highest bidder. A world of loopholes that are not bugs, but features. And that is where the philosophical layer of this story begins. Because money laundering is not just a criminal technique, It is a commentary on human nature. We want systems that protect us. But we also build systems that can be exploited. We crave safety, yet we admire risk takers. We condemn greed, yet we celebrate extraordinary wealth without asking too many questions. We promote transparency, yet we protect privacy. And between these contradictions, criminals thrive, not because they are powerful, but because the world quietly allows them to be invisible. Imagine standing at a global map. Each country lights up with its financial laws, its weaknesses, its blind spots. Like a constellation, criminals draw lines between them, creating their own navigation routes. They know which banks ask fewer questions, which jurisdictions require minimal identity checks, which industries allow anonymous ownership, which markets inflate value without suspicion. Money laundering is not randomness. It is intelligence. It is the exploitation of structural asymmetry. When one country tightens regulations, another loosens them to attract capital. When one builds walls, another opens doors. Singapore tightened. Hong Kong loosened. Europe demanded transparency. The Caribbean offered silence. It is an eternal dance of nations. And criminals know every step. But something else makes modern laundering terrifying. Ordinary people can become part of the system without knowing it. Your bank account can be used as a pass-through. Your identity can be stolen and used to open shell accounts. Your online wallet can be manipulated. You can be tricked into investments or rewards that are really laundering pipelines. When crime becomes digital, distance becomes meaningless. You can become part of a billion-dollar chain from your living room. The Singapore scandal revealed one more truth. Criminals do not operate in shadows, they operate in broad daylight. Shielded not by darkness but by complexity. This is why the case shocked the world. It wasn't the money, it was the realization that even the cleanest systems can be manipulated. That even nations built on transparency can be used as conduits. And that the greatest threats are not chaos, but systems appearing too perfect to question. Yet, if money laundering exposes humanity's weaknesses, it also highlights our strength, the power to see the truth once we choose to look. Technology, AI, pattern detection, cross-border data systems, is learning to read the language of crime. To detect anomalies invisible to human eyes. To connect dots scattered across 5 continents. To uncover what criminals hide behind layers of deception. The Singapore case broke open because someone noticed something that didn't quite fit. A document that looked wrong. A paper trail that didn't smell right. It was not luck, it was vigilance. And that leads us to the final layer of this story. Money is not the villain. Money is neutral, but we are not. What we do with money reveals the stories we don't tell. It reveals our fears, our ambitions, our contradictions. It reveals how far one is willing to go to appear legitimate. And it reveals how a society values truth, not by what it says, but by what it is willing to see. The $3 billion illusion that unfolded in Singapore was not just a criminal operation. It was a reminder that the world we live in is fragile, not because it is weak, but because it is interconnected. One loophole in one nation becomes a gateway for criminals everywhere. One blind spot becomes a highway. One unchecked document becomes a doorway. And one moment of assuming, it can't happen here, becomes the exact moment it does. This story, like all stories worth telling, leaves us with questions bigger than the crime itself. How do we build systems strong enough to protect us, yet flexible enough to function? How do we balance privacy with accountability? How do we prevent technology from enabling crime faster than law can react? And above all, in a world where money can erase its own history, how do we protect the one thing that cannot be laundered, trust? Because once trust breaks, no system, not even the strongest, can stand. This is WowVerse, where science meets humanity, where facts meet philosophy, where stories reveal the unseen architecture of our world. If you want to continue exploring the hidden truths behind modern life, hit subscribe and join us as we dive deeper into the mysteries that shape our future. The world is full of secrets. Together, we will unveil them.